caution Bahamians that there are many, many charlatans, snake oil salesmen out there.
Every dollar that we put into a young person will have a return on investment that's greater than what we can ever imagine.
If I'm going to get some funding or some support from you, how soon would I know?
The state finance minister backpedals on proposed VAT changes. This as a senior banking exec foreshadows suffering following VAT implementation. Convicted drug trafficker's son murdered, plus a pastor's home vandalized. We've got those stories and a whole lot more tonight. I'm Wani Toot and NW12 starts now. Topping news tonight, State Minister for Finance Michael Halkitis today hit back at the opposition's double taxation claim, explaining there will be customs reductions when value-added tax comes into effect. However, it was a departure from the Prime Minister's 2014-2015 budget communication in the House of Assembly last week. The Prime Minister did not announce any reductions in import and excise duties, leaving the opposition to cry shame. Dana Smith reports.
Halkitis said he wanted to clear up the misconception that there would be no customs duty reductions when VAT comes into effect. He explained when the Prime Minister said there would be no announcement of customs duty reductions at that time, that did not mean there would never be any reductions. Prime Minister Perry Christie made it clear in his budget communication in the House of Assembly last week that it is not his government's intention to lower custom duties in the initial period of VAT implementation. In fact, Christie indicated this is something the government wouldn't be prepared to look at until 2015-2016.
Being able to streamline exemptions and position the VAT rate much lower than in the white paper, the government is not announcing any wide-scale reduction in import duties and excise duties at this time. Based on the revenue performance of VAT early next year, the government may be in a position to consider tariff and excise reductions at the time of the 2015-2016 budget.
It was immediately following this speech that members of the opposition accused the government of double taxing Bahamians by moving forward with plans for VAT while not announcing duty reductions. However, Halkitis appeared to backtrack from Christie's statement, insisting in the House of Assembly this morning some have willfully stretched and misinterpreted the Prime Minister's words in order to instill fear in the minds of the Bahamian people. He explained the Prime Minister never said there would never be any reductions.
It has been said, Mr. Speaker, that the VAT and tax reform will result in the so-called double taxation of Bahamians. And I want to set the record straight on this score, both to correct the misconceptions that have been stoked and to reassure the public on what tax reform will really mean for the prices of goods and services. The words set out in the budget communication mean exactly what they say. Given the government's fiscal needs and for the sake of prudent and conservative fiscal planning, no wide-scale reductions in tariffs and excises are being announced at this time, today. That in no way says that there will be no tariff and excise cuts whatsoever. It says no wide-scale cuts now.
Outside Parliament, Halkitis explained further. He said duty reductions are coming. He said between now and January 1st, the day VAT comes into effect, government will work on a list of selected customs duty reductions to come into effect with VAT. And after that, an expanded list of reductions will be presented by the next fiscal period.
The Prime Minister said in the budget communications that we were not announcing any wide-scale reduction of duties at this time, meaning there was no across-the-board reduction of customs duties now. VAT comes into effect January 1st, 2015. Between now and then, we will be proposing a list of selected customs duty reductions. So you will have a selected amount of reductions at the beginning, and as the system is implemented and we get it perfected, when we get to the budget for 2015-2016, which will be done in May, June next year, then we want to come with an expanded list of exemptions, and we continue, not exemptions, reductions, and we continue that process as we implement.
Halkitis didn't say exactly what items will have reduced duty, but he explained government will focus on items that can affect the cost of living.
And what we are going to look at is, duties that are very high, duties that if we bring them down, it would have an impact on, the cost of living. And so we're going to be doing that, and we're going to be having the discussion, and it would all be made public. But I just wanted to reiterate that, what the Prime Minister said by saying that there would be no across-the-board announcements at this time does not mean that there will not be none at all.
Reporting for NB12, I'm Dana Smith.
A top banking executive is predicting the general population will suffer a decreased standard of living once VAT is introduced early next year, but noted it's a reality we must face as government moves to increase revenue. This despite a cut in the taxation rate. Commonwealth Bank President Ian Jennings also urged government to release VAT legislation and regulations as soon as possible so that local clearing banks can prepare for the new tax regime.
The general population is going to suffer a decreased standard of living because that money is coming out, whether it be in a payroll tax or VAT, increases in other excise duties or whatever. So I think we have to face that reality.
As VAT implementation looms, the Commonwealth Bank president predicted that we will all be challenged and advised all Bahamians to reassess how they use their disposable income, which he says is already low.
No matter, as I say, what form the tax is going to take, whether it be VAT or anything else, we're going to see, again, a significant sector of our customers are going to be hurt by this, and we may see a short-term spike in delinquencies.
Under the old VAT proposal, Jennings says Commonwealth Bank estimated an annual increase in expenses to the tune of $4 million. However, he noted that just because the Christie administration cut the rate from 15% to 7.5%, it doesn't mean it will lessen VAT's impact on the bank's bottom line.
Despite the cutting of the rate, the projected intake for the 6 months of 2015 would actually have exceeded a 6-month period under the 15%. So the impact of not reducing the customs duties will have an impact. Precisely what that is, we're not sure. Again, under the previous 15% regime, it wasn't clear what the new tariff rates were going to be. So just because the rate is cut, it doesn't mean that the impact on the bottom line is going to be less.
Jennings says the bank welcomes delayed VAT implementation. However, government must move quickly to release VAT guidelines to ensure the new January 2015 target date is doable.
One of our concerns throughout the private sector as a whole is that we see a lot of commentary about government being ready for VAT, but I'm not sure that they totally take into account the lead times that the private sector needs, especially when you're talking about very complex and multiple financial software systems that will have to be adjusted. We're then faced with the final regulations and act and guidelines coming out in October or November, because we'd just be back where we were. It's very important that the government pushes on and gets the information out into the public domain as quickly as possible. If they can do that, then 6 months is a doable time frame.
The Bahamian-owned bank dished out $5 million this year due to a significant increase in business license fees and noted the financial impact of increased taxation is a concern. Commonwealth Bank has 6,000 shareholders and 6,700 employees. The son of 2 noted drug traffickers was killed in a vicious attack in an inner-city neighborhood last night. NB12 has confirmed that the victim is 17-year-old Enrico Major, son of convicted drug dealers Dwight and Kevin Major. Head of the Central Detective Unit, Paul Roll, told us police found Major's dead body on a sidewalk along Blue Hill Road around 7 p.m. Sunday.
The male victim was walking south along Blue Hill Road along with another one of his friends when they were attacked by a group of males who, one of whom produced a cutlass and chopped the victim to the head, and another one produced an item and stabbed him once to the upper left back. EMS also responded to the scene and pronounced the male lifeless.
Major was a high school student who lived in the Soldier Road area. Police are still trying to track down the assailants in this case. By NASA Guardian records, his death is the 56th murder recorded this year. Dwight and Kevin Major were both extradited to the U.S. on charges of conspiracy to import cocaine and marijuana into the United States. Kevin Major was released in 2008 as part of a plea deal. She currently lives in New Providence, the Guardian understands. Major is still serving time in federal prison. The family was said to be in shock and did not wish to comment. It seems police did not believe the story of a young woman who allegedly stabbed an 18-year-old man and claimed he tried to rob her. 21-year-old Dermesia Burrows of Padolio Street appeared in the magistrate's court this afternoon, charged with the May 27th murder of Franklin Stubbs. Police say they got a call shortly after 1 a.m. from a woman claiming she had just stabbed a man who attempted to rob her on Miami Street. When officers arrived on the scene, they met the lifeless body of a male with a stab wound. He was pronounced dead at the scene, and a short while later, the woman turned herself into police. Authorities identified the woman as a 28-year-old, but as we learned in court today, she is only 21. Burrows was remanded to prison. A pastor and his family are in shock tonight after their home in Doris Johnson Estates was ransacked Sunday night. The culprits ripped the pastor's robes, his wife's church suits, and smashed their flat-screen televisions from the walls, but took nothing but their passports and important documents.
All the passports and all bank documents and cards. She found a piece of one of the passport, and that just gone. We had it in a pouch with all the documents in the house, and she carried all of them.
Pastor Alfred Cooper says he and his wife Edith left their Doris Johnson Lane home around 7:15 last night to attend a night service at Living Waters Church of God on Miami Street and Robinson Road. They returned home shortly after 10 p.m. to this.
They cut up all the wires from the fridge, the washer's wire, cable, to cut them off, and they blow some of the fuses and they tripped the breakers.
The culprits reportedly turned over the Cooper family's fridge and dressers, damaged the china, stove, and other furniture, ripped the flat-screen TV from the bedroom wall and left it broken on the floor, cut the cable and fridge wires, turned on the bathroom faucets to flood the three-bedroom home, and smashed family photos. But that's not all. Now, you were showing us when you opened your closet, you met the clothes ripped.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was your initial reaction?
Well, I was somewhat surprised because being a minister of the gospel and being friendly with everybody, we're wondering who could have done such a thing. You know, and I understand that as someone who visited the church before, where I'm pastoring, and I mean, it's just devastating.
Pastor Cooper estimates there was about $20,000 worth of damage. However, he says the culprits took nothing from their home but passports and other important documents. Cooper says a neighbor saw a woman entering the home using a key. He believes it's the house key his wife lost on Sunday morning.
The neighbor said they saw her, and this woman don't know her, so asked who you is, because when we have go to church, you don't leave nobody home. So she said, the woman is my aunt.
Cooper says the family knows the young woman described by neighbors. He says she visited their church a few times and seemed troubled. He says police visited their home of 8 years to investigate, but did not dust for fingerprints because their home was not broken into. He's hoping for justice, but says he is willing to forgive those responsible.
If this person were to come forth now today and say this to me, I would forgive them, because these are material things. And it may be hard getting them back again, but it will happen. And I would be prepared to forgive this person if she prepared to repent and receive God as a personal Savior. I'm prepared to forgive her, because even locking up ain't gonna bring it back. And I don't want to see her go to jail or hide or anything, because people will get them back somehow or another.
Police, along with family members and friends, are seeking your help tonight in locating 35-year-old Roshan Wallace of Freeport, Grand Bahama, who was reported missing today. Wallace is described as having a light brown complexion and is 5 feet 4 inches tall. She was last seen around 10:30 this morning in the area of Princess Margaret Hospital wearing blue jeans and an orange top. Police were reluctant to get into details but stressed that it is an emergency and are appealing to anyone with information regarding the whereabouts of Roshan Wallace, no matter how small or insignificant, to anonymously call them at 919 or Crime Stoppers at 328-TIPS in New Providence or 300-8476 in the Family Islands.